Let me open the slide. This one. Okay, so we discussed that HTTP is a sessionless protocol, so we'll have to implement control to actually manage sessions. Session basically gives full governance for a user, so that we can manage how user behavior is happening, when is user logging in, user logging out, and then there are multiple weaknesses attached to session management, which we'll discuss in this current scenario. So first of all, we checked that what are cookies. So now we have seen what are the cookies and what are its attributes. We've touched base upon that. We've seen cookie attributes also. We have tested session fixation. I'll explain what session fixation is. We'll test about CSRF and logout functionality. So in order to understand session fixation, I gave you a scenario of two users, user A and user B. So session fixation is an issue in which you're able to fix a session of somebody else and you're able to log in through that user. And that's exactly what you tried. So I hope everyone has done that practical.
Yeah.
Only one remaining. Guys, have you tried it yourself? If not, please take 10 minutes to try it yourself. It's important to understand what session fixation is.
Yeah.
Okay. There are cookie attributes which I wanted to discuss specifically. Can we quickly go back and somebody can share screen for set cookie? So go back to that path and show the set cookie. I think Ranjit, you can do if you are there. I don't know if you're there. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
You see the path, this attributes here. When you log in, you get these parameters. Secure HTTP only. Yes? Yeah. So this is what we'll discuss. So secure attribute is basically to ensure that the cookie goes over HTTPS only. But the funny part here is that the application itself is not on HTTPS. So in this case, it's not valid. And in a scenario where there is an HTTPS enabled, in which the cookie will only glow on HTTPS, otherwise it won't pass. In HTTP only, it basically ensures that the cookie cannot be accessed via client-side script. So not sure if you know about this, but I'm pretty sure you've done XSS in the last application security module. Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Is everyone aware about XSS?
I mean, have to recall it. Yeah, it's been a long time.
Do you understand what is client-side script? What is JavaScript? Okay, chuck it. So what we'll do is essentially we'll test this when we, so you have to remember this. We'll come back to this point when we talk about injection. So I'll tell you what XSS is. It's called cross-site scripting attack. The cross-site scripting is something in which you can call HTTP cookie on from a client-side script. So we'll be inserting a script using JavaScript, and that JavaScript will call a cookie, and that cookie should not be transferred to any other user. So you just saw that what happens if somebody gets hold of your cookie. Yes. In the last exercise, we saw that if somebody steals your cookie, they can log in on your behalf. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Great.
Essentially, somebody should not steal your cookie. So now using XSS, you can steal somebody's cookie. And to prevent XSS from stealing anyone's cookie, you can apply a secure, you can apply this attribute which will prevent any client-side script to call the cookie. So if this is already placed on the cookie value here, you should not be able to get the cookie. I'll explain this when we see XSS. Now, if we write domain here, so this domain will ensure that your cookie is not transferred to any other domain. What this means is that this will ensure that this particular domain only has the cookie that you're sharing. This cookie cannot be redirected to any other domain. So only this domain will be able to get the JSession ID. That's the domain parameter.
So where it is getting actually passed under the same set cookies parameter or somewhere else?
The attributes are defined only in set cookie parameter. Whenever there is a set cookie that comes after login, this is the place where you get parameters.
Okay.
The attributes. Then there is an expiration time. You can also specify path that, only this specific path can have cookie value. So further after domain, if you want to, select that which specific URL of your application wants to be, should have the access to the cookie, you can list down the specific URL also in the attribute. That's path value. And finally is the expiration time of that particular cookie. Okay. So these are attributes which you should remember that are attached to a session ID when a set cookie attribute comes in. These attributes can be assigned to your cookies. Okay.
Sure.
This is a sample. So we saw set cookie in which they've set only HTTP only. There's no path. Path is / which means complete website should have HTTP only. So what does HTTP only means? HTTP only means that no client-side script can call for XSS, call for client-side revolution of cookie. By now, everyone understands what is client-side, what is server-side. Is that aspect clear to everyone? Yes, no, maybe. Do you understand what is client-side? Guys, anyone? Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
So is there a difference between client-side or server-side? What do you understand by client-side? Okay, we need to go back to basics first. What is client-side?
From the
Yes.
user's browser.
Browser and the client.
And what is server-side? You're not audible, Rajiv, if you're speaking.
No, where we are requesting the data from, where we are getting the data from.
Right, but what is the difference between the two? So let's say if you do any changes on client side, will that change anything on the application?
The rendering, let's say if you are changing something on the HTML or the web page in the client side, whatever got rendered that will get changed, but it will not change anything on the server. But if you change
Correct.
anything on the server, it will reflect to all clients, no matter which browser or whatever you are
Correct.
using.
Correct. So which means it's clear what is client side and server side, correct?
Yeah.
So here we're looking towards a response where the response value is saying about HTTP only, and there is a client side script which cannot call for the session cookie. So if you request for any script which is calling for a cookie, the client side script will not run because there is HTTP only path.
Can you show
There
us
is
the
HTTP.
demo, like how to do that if possible?
I will come on that because that is XSS. So XSS
Okay.
is another part of injection, which is why it's not covered in this area.
Okay, sure. Thanks.
We discuss session fixation. So what happens is that you're, as a user, you're able to authenticate yourself without invalidating another user's session. So let's say there were two users, user A and user B. We tested this. We didn't log out from user A. We stole their session ID and we utilize that session ID to log in and authenticate as that user. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we were able to impersonate that user. Everyone tried this?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Cross-site request forgery. Again, I was told that you guys did this in application security module. Do we have a background of this? Okay, I'll consider that as a no. So cross-site request forgery. You remember I told you an example of user A and user B sitting together. They don't like each other.
Yeah. Yes.
Now let's see this from this scenario. So let's come to image number 1, which says attacker finds a function with predictable values on target web app.
Are you sharing something, sir?
Are you able to see my screen?
No.
Can you see it now?
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's come to point number 1, which says attacker finds a function with the predictable values on the target web app. Essentially what we are doing is we found a particular place where we can make a change on somebody else's on any login's behalf. So we have to find a vulnerable function which we can operate, which does not have any which we want to basically forge. So all you need to understand right now is that you need to find out an application in which there is a functionality which you probably want to forge and want to execute on somebody else's behalf. It's exactly like deleting important information, but you don't want your name to be involved in it. Okay, let's consider this scenario. Now, attacker builds exactly a page which is a replica of that same request for deletion of that user. Now, when the other user is authenticated already on the own session, they will replace and execute that page and that activity will get done. But the name would be involved of that user who clicked on that link. This is user A. This is user B. Okay. Now, please ignore my handwriting.
The handwriting is not visible.
Yeah, I guess we are only able to see the PPT.
Okay. This is the problem when you have multiple screens. Now you should. Okay, so you have two users, A and B. Okay. And you find a functionality of deletion of users on application. Which is accessible to both, to A as well as to B. You can log in and you can delete any user using your credentials. Okay, till this place it is clear.
Yes.
Now B wants to delete a user C, but he wants name of A to come for deletion of user C. He doesn't want his name to be involved for deletion of user C. Okay. So what he does is he basically captures the request of deletion of user C. Okay. Now that request is being captured by B on burp, but he does not forward that request and creates an HTML page with a button behind which he redirects this to submission of this request. So what he's doing is he's creating an HTML page which is basically connected to this request. Okay. Now, if somebody clicks on that button, user C will be deleted. And when user A is logged in inside his portal, he sends this request. User B sends this request to user A. Now, this request is sent to user A either via link, either via email, whatever. But at the point when he's clicking on that button, he should be logged in inside the portal. Now, when he clicks on this link, obviously that request will pass and that will delete user C. But that request will take name of user A. User A didn't know what was behind that button. All he could see was potentially a link and he clicked on that particular button. Behind that button, there was a captured request of deletion. Are you getting it?
Yes.
And user C got deleted. This is called cross-site request forgery.
Basically, the API method that will get implemented for that button, and
Correct.
and the access token will be used for the
And the
session.
access
User
token
A.
of user A would be used. So user A would be blamed for deletion of user C, but essentially it was user B who wanted to delete the user C. Got it?
Yeah.
This is called cross-site request forgery.
But nowadays it's not a very famous, right? Like, because people are very aware of that and don't click the links and all.
So one is link clicking. Secondly, every page right now that you see has got a unique access token. That is what I'll explain you. So
Okay.
it's called CSRF token. Now do one thing. Go to NetBank or go to this application demo.testfire and create a request of seeing any particular account which is only visible to you, that particular user. Let's say 8 lakh 2 or 8 lakh 3. Now intercept that request and save that request. Do that first. Let's see if how we do it. Let's try and execute CSRF.
Admin account is fine, or any normal user?
Normal. Let's try from a normal user. Admin has visibility to everything, so admin will be able to execute everything.
Okay. It's done.
Okay. You captured that request of particular account.
Yes, it is there under HTTP history.
Right. Now save that request in a notepad. But you have to create an HTTP. I think Burp Pro has that feature. The
Can I
Burp
share
that
my screen?
yeah, please do, please do.
Here it is.
Let me give you a solution. Go to this website. CSRF POC generator. Go to this website, security.love-csrf POC generator.
Sorry,
Copy
what
that.
is the URL? Oh,
Done. Now
no,
copy.
not yet.
Okay.
This says file not found for me. Very strange.
Fine. Just type CSR POC generator. You'll get this.
CS.
CSRF POC generator.
Yeah, it's same thing. I just followed your link. Okay. GENERO.
Rajiv, I have sent in the chat the link. Just give it a try.
Sure.
Where is the chat?
Yeah, I got it here. So which method do I have to select here? Post or get?
So you must have captured the request. You see which method it is.
It was get and post both.
You have to view a particular information. So
It will be get.
So post is just to passing the user ID and password to application.
post
And
must be login. You should not.
yes.
So we want to make a change in the application or view something personal. Two things that we can do, right? So here either you make a change, which could be like change password request, or you can view something like account summary. So capture something like that as a request.
Okay. So is this much information is fine or still do I have?
Are you sharing your screen?
Yeah.
I can't see.
No. Actually, okay. It's here. I just checked the account history of 8004 and the 5, and here is the data, basically the cookie.
Correct. Now you have to save this request. So just save this get request, copy this, and put this in the CSRF POC generator. Copy the whole thing.
Which one? The complete content or only for this cookie?
Complete. Complete request. Copy this. Just select copy. Go back to CSRF POC.
Here. Paste, right?
Yeah. And URL
And-
this has to be get, and the URL has to be the application. Just demo.aspire.net, not the whole. Now download CSRPOC. Now you've got it, HTML file. You click on this button.
This one?
Yeah.
Actually, I didn't sign it off from here. That could be the reason it is taking me back with the same link.
No, so when you click on this, you have to be authenticated. So what we are what we're doing is you have to copy the full URL. Copy the full URL.
Copy it.
Not this one. Go back to the first page where the URL was complete. Yeah, copy this
one.
Yeah, and then generate another POC. Yeah, copy URL here as complete URL. Change this. Download CSR POC. Run this HTML. Yeah, click on this. Yeah, click on this.
It is showing me this page.
Right. So you are able to access directly. And when this link is now, this page is sent to another user. Now you log off as John Doe, whoever you logged in as. You logged in as Jane Doe, right? Now
Yes.
log out as Jane Doe. Log out. Log out from Jane Doe.
Yep, I logged off.
Now log in as another user.
Okay. Sorry, Jason. I logged in with J Smith.
Now go back to HTML file that you created.
Yeah.
No.
I have to download it.
Yeah, you can download it. Download. Open this. Click on this link.
It shows me John Smith.
Right. So essentially, you utilized his session ID and you were able to click to visualize savings account. This is what we're trying to say, that you will be able to replace and execute an activity on somebody else's behalf.
Supposed to be in the same browser that HTML or any browser can be?
The same browser in which you are authenticated as a user. This will not work unless you're authenticated.
Yes.
So log out and try to log in. Log out and try to log in and open HTML.
So basically the link which has been copied, it is from the other user and passing that link to the already authenticated other authenticated user to execute that query.
Correct. Yes. And then this will run and you'll be able to execute it.
Okay. So this John will be culprit that who deleted the database.
Correct. But it was actually done by somebody else. Jane.
Yeah. Got it.
So this is cross-site request forgery. Understood? Clear to everyone?
Yeah. So generally the hackers or the attackers, they are leaving the script on the government website for this kind of activities.
Yeah, they do. They do. We get a lot of links. Sometimes you get your links in message. You just think that you're opening link for particular YouTube video or probably watching some content. As soon as you click on it, they ask you to submit. How many times you've been shown an ad and you're forced to click on some ad? Just click on it.
But how they are posting it,
You
because
click.
that domain owner is somebody else and the application owner is somebody else, then how they are putting their banners over there?
So that is a redirection that they use, no? It is not that they own the website. So as soon as you click the website, these links pop up. These are ads which are authorized by these users. But what is behind those ads, that is not validated by these domain owners, no?
But somebody is sending the request, for example, the Yahoo, that Yahoo mail, right? So on the left hand on the right hand side there is a banner or the advertisement. So
Right.
somewhere that the attacker is also posting the advertisement on the Yahoo domain. That's the reason it is coming with the advertisement that you can click here, then you will get some millions of the dollar, right?
Yeah.
So that is it looks like that it is it is the attacker who is posting their advertisement on the genuine website.
Correct. Yes, that's the scenario.
Okay. So that is the scenario, but attacker is not having the full control of that third party applications where they are posting their advertisement. It
No,
is all about the mutual understanding, and behind that they are using the script to do these kind of activities.
exactly. The way you get malware on your phone. So
Hmm.
let's say, for example, you download an application which is only for chatting purposes, but that application in the background is essentially a malware which is uploading your data to somebody else.
Yeah, got it.
So that's exactly how it works.
Yeah, yeah, this makes sense, and it's clear. Yeah.
Right. So this is a very known issue in the application security world, and people do have a lot of issues around CSRF. And then it is very difficult for developers to get convinced why CSRF is an issue. So we have to explain them while you are authenticated, we don't want integrity issue to come in picture, where somebody is able to execute on somebody else's behalf. So now logically think what could be a solution to CSRF.
So even though if they are posting the CRSF or the script to redirect to the third party server,
Mm-hmm.
so some level of the application level, the checks is also getting done on the web server, right? Like if someone is posting the delete command, it should not accept.
See, if
Or
there is a
if
delete
someone,
functionality, server will have to accept because you
I mean
created
the
delete.
validation on the application layer itself.
That's what I'm explaining. So let's say an application has a functionality of deletion.
Mm-hmm.
Now an administrator wants to delete a user, so it's a genuine functionality. So if a genuine request is coming to the server, server will obviously respond. Now server needs to check whether this particular transaction of deletion request is initiated by the right user or not. To do
Okay.
that, there has to be some sort of a validation attached to the session ID. The session is unique.
Correct.
Why are we discussing this in session ID? So what happens is then there is a CSRF token which connects you to the session ID and which validates that your particular transaction is unique. And this cannot be copied. So the user who copy paste this, request. So you go back to generate POC, the generator that in which you copied.
Yeah, just give me a second. I'm sharing my screen 1 second. It's over here.
Right. Now, do you see a J session ID going in this?
Yes, it's over here.
And there
So,
is a get request with the whole path. Now,
correct.
this particular session ID is belonging to some other user. What we need to ensure here from the server side is that whenever this request is being hit, it has to
Mm-hmm.
originate from the session ID of the login user. So this session ID should change and it should be ideally of the user which belongs to the person who is logged in that application. So which means this particular request should not go.
Okay.
If there is a uniqueness attached to every transaction, then
Mm-hmm.
CSRF will not work. And for that uniqueness, we will apply a CSRF token.
So basically, it is only using this cookie and the cookies information, or
Yeah,
it is using everything, because at last there is a connection close.
it is using everything and it is basically utilizing the cookie information to be replayed again. And it is not
Okay.
validating the cookie. It will replay the cookie of the new logged in user and it will still ensure that this transaction goes through. That is CSRF.
All right.
Basically, there is a server side validation missing, which is not validating that who originated this request and who is sending this request. So if the maker and checker is being ensured, then there is no CSRF.
Banking applications have already implemented this one. So
Sorry.
I think banking application have already implemented this kind of security, right?
Obviously, banking will have include, not just banking now, every application creates this because this is a basic parameter we check for a CSRF issue. Any doubts in CSRF?
No, I'm clear.
Is everyone clear?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I want you to do a small exercise. I want you to not log out from your session ID and replay that session ID again. So go to burp. Don't sign out from your demo.testfire and try to replay any particular request in repeater. Go to burp repeater and copy any request from HTTP history and see if you're able to repeat it. Do not log out. You can close the browser if you want. You can share your screen, whoever is trying to do. I'll explain.
We are getting the response.
Right? You're able to still authenticate yourself and get a response back, even if you close the browser. This
Okay.
shows that the logout functionality is not working. Now log out and send again. What you need to do is just sign off and then send the request again. Is it working for everyone? Yes, no, maybe.
Yeah, working.
You're still able to get through even if you've logged out?
Yes.
Which means logout functionality is not correctly implemented. As a standard practice, in a B2C application, we suggest that the inactivity should be 15 minutes. In a B2B application, we suggest a standard inactivity to be 30 minutes. That is how an industry standard is for any kind of invalidation of session token. So this completes session issues and you're able to test all different kind of session issues yourself. Is there any doubt? Session fixation, cookie attributes, any concerns about session?
It looks okay.
Looks okay. Should we proceed?
Yes.
Yes.
The next topic is about input validation. Here we check about the different kind of inputs that we can give to a particular application to see if that input can be exploited. So all user inputs, what we do is called what we basically call fuzzing. You must have entered spam data a lot of times in forms which are boring, in forms which you feel you don't want to fill and it's mandatory for you to fill. Sometimes you just randomly pass information. Yes or no? You tried that?
Yeah.
Yep.
So what is input validation?
Basically, the query params, what query params they are sending, and what kind of data is attached to that query param.
And
Validating what's entered is legitimate.
And it should be in like correct format. So in case of like a mobile number or something, there should not be any characters entered. Only numeric value can be entered.
okay. All are correct. Anything else that you feel? See, essentially what is happening when you input something in an application, it is going back to server. Yes or no? Now, server is nothing but a source code running on a machine, which basically is relying on user input. Yes.
Yeah.
Now, if you're able to control the server basis the input that we give, we're able to manipulate the server in the direction we want. It's almost like having a remote control to the server. Yes.
Yeah.
Now, if we have to get this sorted and controlled and the behavior should be exactly the way we want the server to behave, we have to have some sort of a validation on the input which user is giving, so that there should not be any wrong inputs coming from the user side. This is called input validation, right? Now there can be two types of input validation. One is client side, one is server side. Can anybody give me an example of a client side input validation?
Like you don't allow, like if it's a mobile number, don't allow to write any alphabetical or any special character.
Correct. But in case if you edit and still send it, it'll work.
If server side has like that logic, like pass that query param and make sure that the input values is in numeric, it's not in a string or any special character. So there
Correct.
the server side will take care.
Correct. What else?
Any kind of command like in a backticks and all, if you send it, should not execute.
What else? Tried with dates. There are multiple parameters in which they ask you to enter date.
Yeah.
Now in date, have you tried entering a mobile number?
Yeah, I mean it is, if the validation is there, it's same. Like it applies to all the input boxes. If there is no validation in the client side, you will able to write anything. If there is a validation, like it will be in the format and whatever the prescribed format that is showing, like DDMMYY or MMDDYY, it will
Right.
accept that only.
Okay. So we all understand what client side validation can be. Now from server side, what can you do? What would be a server side example?
The same thing, like you're calling an web page and it accepts only a login username and password, but you are giving a date of birth also. You attach that query param date of birth, or you attach something in that. So that time the server should parse all those query params and find out the date is not a right param, and should return back the server side error, phone not found, or if the implementation is not proper, if you may get 500 internal server error like that.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. So from client side and server side, we're clear. So let me give you an example and see if we can bypass that from the application standpoint. So let's go to demo.testfire. And in the login, just enter username and don't enter a password. Probably we don't have. Uh,
I think it has a
Let me-
client-side validation.
Sorry.
This demo.testfire has a client-side validation. It's showing you
As
must enter a validation.
correct. So that's client-side validation. Has everyone tried that? Can you share your screen? Are you sharing your screen?
You're asking me?
Yeah, yeah.
I think some issue.
Now, in terms of validation, what is the best way to validate? Is whitelisting a best way or blacklisting a best way?
Well, it depends, right? Whitelisting is always better because we have limited set, and blacklisting can work, but we don't know. They may be unknown always.
Correct. So we basically filter what we know. Whitelisting is we only authorize what we want. So whitelisting is best because we're covering the superset. Is everyone with me on this? Are you able to relate why blacklisting, why whitelisting? Okay. Now there are a couple of injections that are with us, which are basically being used in order to exploit user input. And we'll go through each one of them one by one to understand, what are these injections, what can they do, how can we achieve them, what is the kind of exploit that they can perform on the application. Okay. Thing with HTML injection. So HTML injection is nothing but injection of HTML code in your application. Ideally, HTML injection and XSS are quite similar to each other because end of the day, they both are client-side scripts, where HTML is different because HTML specific is HTML code, where XSS can be HTML or it can be JavaScript. Any client-side script for that matter can be called as cross-site scripting. Let's focus on HTML injection first. Now, in HTML injection, what we are trying to do is a user or an application is expecting an input. Let's say here, there are two inputs that are requested by the application, right? Now in the search query, are you able to see the screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Where did you go?
Search query, I'll insert an
Okay,
HTML
search.
script. Okay. And it got reflected here. You see that when I executed, the script got executed here.
Yeah.
And you saw alert in H1. That's basically injection of HTML script inside an input field. Try yourself. Go to this search field and try and enter any HTML script here and press go.
Yeah.
Executed for everyone.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's called HTML injection.
I just ask one question. Like most of us now have started doing this UI on Angular, and most of them either React or Angular, right? And it's all basically the page is formed as the data is received, right? Through. Will this kind of thing still happen and we have to take care of it during, because now does it really that these things have to be taken care by UI developer, or this is all taken care by the framework now?
Majority of it is taken by a framework, to be honest, because XSS and SQL, now we have already built in libraries which protect any kind of user input validation issues. So we have matured up to that level, but sometimes you get broken applications, sometimes you get legacy applications, not just legacy, but sometimes you get a simple coded application even. So everything is not on framework though. And sometimes within the framework also there are issues and vulnerabilities where they've not taken care of every user input. They might have thought for 99 of them and could have left one. So when you do an exercise of pen test, you have to check for all user inputs in that sense and see if the user validation is placed on all your input parameter fields.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
But majority of us, to answer your question, yes, it's taken care of framework by now. In Angular, you will not find HTML injection for sure.
Okay.
Let's talk about cross-site scripting. This is the most common attack that you've heard of. People do this. What can you do with, cross-site scripting and HTML injection? Have you heard these kind of news where application is defaced and the application shows you're hacked and images like that?
Yeah, it was common few years back.
Yeah, and the method used was XSS, cross-site scripting. So when an application is being defaced means that their application has a user page showcasing hacker's image or the hacker's intended message. That intended message on any application can come only when there is a persistent cross-site scripting. So there are categories of XSS. One, it is persistent. Second, it is non-persistent. And third, it is DOM based. In order to explain you these three scenarios, let's understand the English meaning first. So if you go back to the application here, I see alert and I'm logged in inside my application, but can anyone see this alert on their own screen also? Let me see which account I was in. I was in JDO. No, I was in admin. Can anybody log into admin and see in search results, are they able to see alert? The answer would be no. Just try. Don't enter any script here. Just go to search results.
So it is
For
not.
admin, yes.
Are you able to see alert?
Yeah.
Did you enter any script here or was it already there?
No, I mean, it was already there. I just entered the similar script which you have applied under the search, and I was
No,
able
you
to.
don't have to apply. That's what I'm saying.
No,
It should not be there. That's what I'm
no,
saying.
it is not there. It is not there.
So what essentially that means is that whoever is injecting the script there, he's the only person who's able to see. Which means it is not going back to the server and it is not persistent. Getting it?
Yeah.
It's called non-persistent XSS. Now let me give you a script to write. Just type in the script. Try entering this in search field.
Can you please share in chat?
Where is the chat? It's not showing me here. Can't see chat here. It's very weird.
Let me post it.
This is the script.
For me, it's breaking the entire web page. Just the pop-up is coming.
Correct, that's fine. That's fine. Is it working for everyone?
Yeah, it's working.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, I was speaking on mute. I'm saying this was non-persistent XSS. And the user on whose screen this script was entered, he is the same user who's getting infected. So it's got a limited scope only. A persistent XSS is when you enter something inside the application and I mean, whoever visits that application, the application gets persistently exploited. So that's called persistent XSS. Let me explain you why scenarios now. So what happens is that the attacker injects the script inside the website, and then this website is visited by somebody else. As soon as that visitor visits the website, that particular session cookie is basically sent back to the hacker from the persistent XSS. So this is how step 1, 2, 3 works. Any questions in this?
This is clear. There should be a server on the attacker side which will be continuously listening to anything coming.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Then comes the next kind of grief XSS, in which you send the link back to the visitor. Victim gets connected to the link. The website visitor sends the session of the cookie back to the perpetrator. So it's not directly from the website. He's listening from the website visitor. So here the link is sent to the visitor. The visitor clicks on that link. It goes to the website. From website, it gets a response back, and that response is coming back from the same link. So in this scenario, the link is the major key, which is sent to the website visitor. In this scenario, it is already injected, so there's no constant listening from the website. The perpetrator is listening once the link is clicked by the visitor on the website. You see the change? Yes, no, maybe. Guys, I need some response. Everyone is feeling sleepy after lunch, is it?
Yeah, clear. This.
No questions in this?
This is okay, right?
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Have you tried this earlier?
Uh, this cookie stealing cookie? No,
Not tried stealing cookie?
no, 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 no.
Document.cookie? No?
I don't recall. So basically, alert the document.cookie, is it?
Let me try if this is working. Then I'll give you next check. Okay, so document.cookie should not work. And the reason is simple, because it has HTTP only enabled. So let me try this. So El Toro accounts is not, so this you can. Fair enough. Let me share screen. Can you see? Entering the script, it basically says alert document.cookie. Now, whichever cookie is vulnerable, it will be shown on the screen. So J session ID had HTTP only, but El Toro accounts had no HTTP only. You remember?
Okay.
Yeah.
You go back to history, go back to login. So it's the J session ID only, which had set cookie path. Do you see this? Only J session ID was kept as secure and HTTP only. You remember I told you about secure and HTTP only? What was HTTP only? HTTP only does not allow cookie to be accessed via client-side scripts such as JavaScript, thus preventing theft of cookies via XSS. So when we input XSS script with document.cookie, are you able to see JSession ID here? There is no JSession ID.
No JSession ID.
Because there is HTTP only enabled on JSession ID. But on Altoro cons, there was no set cookie path, which is why this cookie came out. Yes?
Yeah.
Try this. Let me want this to be copied. This is the This is the script. Is it done by everyone? Can I randomly ask somebody to share screen?
Yeah, done.
Ajit, Vikshit, Sudarshan, Pinaki, Arvind. No confirmation, guys. Have you executed? Yes, no.
Yeah,
I
execute.
executed, I think, but I did some mistake. Let me share it.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is what I did. Alert document cookie.
You're running in Chrome. Run it in Firefox.
Okay. Let me do that.
Anyone else? So certain browsers have got pre-default XSS protection mechanism already enabled. Chrome has it, which is why it does not let you run XSS directly.
Actually, it's working in Chrome also.
Yeah.
It's working in Chrome.
Perfect. Works fine. Okay.
Yeah, it worked for me in Firefox. Yeah.
Have you guys not done this in application security class, or you've got, you've forgotten something like that?
This I don't think. At least I
XSS.
have.
Okay. You didn't do XSS and DVWA.
XXS, we did something on. I don't recall it now, but something else we did. Not the document dot cookie.
Okay. You want to try this as well?
This we have done.
Done this?
Yeah, this is done.
Okay. Let's come to URL redirection. What is URL redirection? Essentially, have you seen those examples that you open up a website and you suddenly redirect it to another YouTube video? Or you've suddenly redirected to any ad, or suddenly redirected to another page and asked to click on it. When you open something, but that is not what you intended to open, and you got redirected to somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's essentially exploitation of a vulnerability, which is called URL redirection. So what happens is that attacker sends you a URL and you click on that URL thinking that you're opening possibly gmail.com or or even this link, bit.ly, which you receive usually for your login. It's a link shortener, but essentially in the background it is pointing from one DNS to another, nothing else. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so this is pretty much similar what you do in URL redirection, that you utilize the URL and you ask the user to basically see something which you're not intended to. Let's go back to this application again. Now here, if you see in the query,
href you are referring
Are you sharing, sir?
yeah, you can go back to the screen yourself. Yeah.
to. Is it something like href Adi you are referring? Like
Correct. Now in this query parameter, if I want to redirect this to another URL, what if I enter ahref? This, it's not letting me redirect, but essentially if you type something like that and you want to redirect this to another page, so this parameter could be vulnerable, and if you send this parameter to somebody, you will be redirected directly to that page. So what you would be thinking that you'll be essentially logging to demo.testfire, but no, you'll be redirected to another page. This is what I'm trying to explain. Guys, some response would be helpful.
Yeah. Sometimes we don't really have to even do a href, right? I mean, it automatically server will.
Correct.
I mean, let's say server is moved, then it's a 302 or some.
Yeah, I was
You,
using this example because there is a vulnerability for HTML injection, so we can utilize it for URL redirection. In this, let's see, if there is a user, there's a login URL parameter in which you just enter a parameter and you send that link, it will directly take you to that malicious website.
yeah. So this usual redirection, I mean, when we do some payment, right, automatically every website for payment, it will take us to some other place, and then payment is done, it will bring us back to the original. So every payment is like a redirection only.
But that is a genuine redirection, no? That's not
Yeah,
something that's malicious. If a
yeah,
user gets a control over the URL and he enters a malicious URL and forces you to log in through that, or forces you to act on that URL, then it becomes a problem.
yeah, yeah,
So in URL redirection, he can give you his own payment gateway link. You might be thinking that you're doing payment on the right gateway, but essentially payment would be given to him.
yeah.
So that is URL redirection. Now we've studied a lot of injections. Is there any thought process behind what would be a potential solution to stop this kind of injections?
One is whitelisting the input itself, validating every input which comes.
Okay. And
Special characters, right? Like this A.
correct, correct. So, there are certain characters which basically convert yourself as string. So if you see there is some sort of encoding done when you enter, you see it was already automatically converted to %2, %3. You see that? This is
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's called HTML encoding, though browser understands HTML encoding, which is why XSS is happening. But if you encode and send this already, or you do an encoding in the background for the input that you're taking, these characters might be filtered. So what you can say is you can filter %3, %2, angular brackets, so that the script does not execute. Any questions?
yeah. No, this is good. Is there a, I mean, nowadays they have some libraries available to do this, right? And we can,
Yeah, there are libraries to stop injection because those libraries can be utilized for whitelisting or blacklisting. So those libraries give you that input validation automatically. So when you code, you can utilize those libraries to already filter SQL, XSS, HTML. All of that filtration can be done automatically by inclusion of those libraries. So modern day code, yes, you have libraries. Okay, next is SQLi. Though everyone has done the SQLi already for authentication bypass. Do you understand what is SQL injection? Everyone does. You guys have executed it.
yeah. So,
Yes, no, maybe.
yes,
Some.
yes, we understand. So,
Yes, yes.
yeah,
Now, SQL injection is not only for authorization bypass or authentication bypass. It is not that you can bypass login page and you can enter. There are multiple things that you can do from SQL injection. You can also enter a shell inside a server to get a connection back. You can run OS commands from SQL injection. You can steal or dump database from SQL injection. There are multiple things that you can do from SQL injection. As soon as you get hold of the database using SQL commands, that's like doing everything that you can do from that particular application. Now there are categories of SQL injection: in-band, out-of-band, blind SQL. Are you aware about this? Have you studied this in the last?
No, no. Inbound, outbound, no, we're not.
Okay. Now in band, essentially what happens is that the channel through which you are inputting the data, you'll get a response back from the same channel, which means here in the application, when you logged in here or you utilized this channel to log in, basically you were able to bypass from the same channel itself. What this is saying is that if you enter a data and Now somebody else comes to that application, that SQL injection is affecting that user, not you. That is called out of band. It's almost like persistent XSS. So you stored the query, but you are not the person who's getting affected. Somebody else visits the application, they browse through that page, and then they get impacted. That is called out of band.
Okay.
And
So
then, yeah,
query is always, I mean, how do we store the query? Query
have you come
is create.
across have you come across a scenario of form submission where people input their comments?
Yeah.
Now, in that kind of scenario, you'll find out of band many times. So what people do is in comments, they send a SQL injection and they press submit. The form gets submitted. At that point of time, there is no query from the server which is responding back at that same point. There is no reason for server to respond from DB because that is not the code. The code is only meant for accepting the submission. Correct? There is nothing in a form submission where a server has to behave and respond back.
Okay.
Now, go to the administrator side of the story. Who is receiving the comments? Administrator sees a comment sent by a user, and in the comment section, he sees that there's a SQL injection coming. At his end, at his UI, that SQL injection gets executed. Are you getting it?
Yeah. During query, it will basically
Correct. When the
the
server
one.
is being, when
Yeah.
that query is actually executed to EDB, then it is being executed, which is called out of band. So this is the difference between in band and out of band. Now there is a third one called blind SQLi. Blind SQLi is that when you actually don't know what is behind and you try to enter different SQL information, which was the case in this authentication bypass. So you didn't know that which DB it is behind. Did you know? No, right? We entered a query and we got a response back.
Right.
And it showed us an error. Yes or no?
Yeah.
This error came. Now, when we went through this error, we understood, okay, there could be potentially something like a SQL. So this is called blind SQL injection, where you absolutely have no clues what's behind. You try to find it by error. You enter some codes and you get a response back and you predict there could be a possible SQL injection. This is called blind SQLi.
Okay.
So these are the three categories of SQL injection that you will come across in your, you know, term of penetration testing a particular application. Now I want to give you an exercise, guys. You've learned these injections. I want you to go through these websites, these pages, and find another SQL injection and another XSS on the same application. Log in through admin, find one XSS and find one SQL which is existing here, and you have to find it out. Okay. You can start doing it
Okay.
now. Found in XSS?
SQL injection we have to find, right?
Both.
Or XSS.
XSS, one SQL.
The script injection is happening everywhere, but SQL not sure.
Try. You'll find one.
Yeah, at least a skill exception it thrown.
Correct. So you found. You're almost there.
So this is a see this